Hey folks, this is Kalani. Patch 11.1 is almost here, and it will be introducing a whole bunch of new features and options that you've probably heard of already. A new zone, new raid, big changes for seasonal content, the wacky race car mount, all that fun stuff. But with so many updates, it's hard to keep up with everything, and some changes will definitely fly under the radar, but fear not, we've put together a list of lesser known changes that you might not know about, but will end up being very important as we head into the new patch and season. So in this video we're going to go through 18 important small changes in patch 11.1 that you really need to know about. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. To start with, we're going to see some very important changes for professions. Now the professions themselves aren't really changing too much. We'll still be using mostly the same recipes, doing the same thing, but one aspect of the whole Spark crafted gear conveyor belt is being removed entirely. Previously, if you wanted to upgrade the item level of your crafted gear using runed crests or gilded crests, you would have to buy a nascent crest from the enchanting vendor, get it enchanted by either creating a crafting order or just enchanting it yourself if you have the recipe, and then you could use that on your gear with a craft or recraft order. That entire step has been removed. In patch 11.1, there's a new vendor right next to the crafting order clerk building from whom you will be able to purchase completed enchanted crests for weathered, runed, or gilded crests. The weathered ones are used for lower tiers of crafted gear, and then the runed and gilded ones are used for Spark crafted gear. So this change is going to do a few things. It reduces the number of steps required for making and upgrading your crafted gear, it reduces the cost of upgrading your crafted gear, and then it also makes enchanting less enticing or profitable as a profession. The enchanted weathered crests are actually kinda huge for lower gear levels as well. Removing the whole enchanting step makes crafting lower tier gear incredibly affordable, so that's going to be a great option for alts especially. So you won't be enchanting your crests anymore, that process has been removed for patch 11.1. Another very important update for professions in 11.1 is the ability to reset your profession knowledge points. The NPC to do this is right next to the new enchanted crest vendor. You're looking for Darla Fluxy. Talk to them and they'll let you reset your knowledge points for any profession you currently have. There are some huge caveats here though. This will be a one-time reset. We have no idea if we're going to get another one in a future patch or if this will be the only time you can reset. You will also lose all of the recipes tied to your knowledge points, which makes sense. You don't have those knowledge points locked in after the reset, so you would lose any and all recipes that are learned from that system. So it's a pretty big deal, but if you have a profession where you are just totally unhappy with how you allocated your points, or maybe something just doesn't make as much gold as it used to and you'd like to pivot your profession to something else like making gear for yourself, you can get all of those hard-earned profession knowledge points back and start over from scratch. Just bear in mind that it is currently a one-time deal. Now this next one is a little bit specific, but I'm sure all the hunters out there will appreciate it. In patch 11.1 you will be able to change the specialization of your pets once again. The dev team have flip-flopped on this option quite a lot over the years, but if you pop by a stable master after the patch goes live, you'll be able to freely swap your pet's specializations between cunning, ferocity, and tenacity. So you don't have to keep a specific pet with you to have the defensives, or access to bloodlust or any of the other options. Any pet can do anything once again. This also means you don't have to run around with a pet that you don't necessarily like just for the specialization bonuses, so that's going to be a nice change for sure. Now something that everyone will want to know about as we head into the patch is that after you've completed the introduction questlines for the zone, you'll gain access to a teleporter that can help you quickly move from Undermine to Dornagal and vice versa. So you'll probably be able to keep your Hearthstone in Dornagal, especially as it looks like we'll still be spending quite a bit of time above ground even though the new zone is all in Undermine. This will save you from trekking all the way back down to the Ringing Deeps to take the rocket drill again, so whenever that teleporter becomes available, be sure you unlock it before heading back up to Dornagal. Now the various weekly quests and activities from Season 1 are also going to stay relevant. This seems to include the World Soul weekly quest, the Titan Archive weekly quest, and the Delve weekly quest. It's a little unclear right now, these could just be available on the PTR, but the World Soul weekly quest has been updated to include content options in patch 11.1, like completing world quests in the Undermine zone, so this weekly quest will remain relevant at the very least. It's also worth noting that the new Fractured Spark for Season 2 has flavor text that mentions they primarily come from weekly caches. In Season 1, these Fractured Sparks came from weekly quests that rewarded pinnacle caches, and when I completed one on the PTR, it did reward me with the new Fractured Spark. So if you're wanting to use sparks to get easy high item level crafted gear in Season 2, and let's be honest, who doesn't, these weekly quests will remain important in the new season. This also seems to include other weekly caches like Special Assignment World Quests, the Awakening the Machine event, and the Spreading the Light event. These weekly caches have been updated to reward veteran gear with Season 2 item levels, and they will still be the main source of restored coffer keys for claiming the best rewards from delves. So we'll have a lot of new content in patch 11.1, but some older content will remain relevant as well. Another gear-related change that you should know about as we head into the next patch is that the rewards from completing the Season Master achievements will be changing. In previous seasons, when you reached 1600 rating in PvP, defeated the last boss on the raid on Heroic mode, or reached 2000 rating in Mythic Plus, you would get a special token that you could trade in for Heroic raid item level tier set gear. You could pick whichever slot you wanted, and that would usually be a huge upgrade, especially if you were able to achieve one of those requirements within the first 2 weeks of the season starting. We still have this kind of achievement in Season 2 with the same requirements, but instead of rewarding you with a heroic item level piece of tier set gear of your choice, you will instead get an extra catalyst charge. The catalyst charge will allow you to turn a piece of seasonal gear into tier set gear, so in that respect you are still getting a free tier set upgrade, and you can choose what you use your catalyst charge on. So the main difference here is that you now need to get the piece of gear to use in the catalyst. That's not a huge deal, and in some cases it could actually be to your benefit, but it is an important change I figured you'd want to know about. Now with 11.1 introducing a few new options for delves, and specifically for our delve companion Brann, I'll bet a lot of folks are looking forward to running around with Brann in the tank spec. It does work out quite well, especially if you can provide some off heals at the very least, but healing Brann actually saw some huge buffs as well that I haven't seen highlighted almost anywhere. The Dwarven Medicine Heal Over Time effect will now also provide 15% damage reduction for 12 seconds, and the Heal Over Time effect has been increased by 50%, so Healer Brann could still be very good, especially if you stagger your heal pickups to extend their duration as long as possible. And just in case you were worried about Healer Brann pulling too much aggro with this extra healing, his threat generation has also been reduced, so you should be able to keep the focus on you and stay alive with those souped up heals. So I would definitely encourage you to play with Brann as each specialization, especially as you get into the higher tiers of delves, and really pay attention to which spec makes things easier for you. With the buffs to his healing effects, Healer Brann may still be the easiest option unless you play a very squishy class, or if you're playing as a healer specifically. So tinker around with your options and don't lock in Brann as a tank just because it's shiny and new. We're also going to see some changes to how specific pieces of gear work in patch 11.1, including items that deal damage split between all enemies, commonly known as meteor damage. Usually these effects haven't seen a lot of play, especially in dungeons or high target count situations. The split damage just doesn't hold up to stat related trinkets most of the time, so any trinket, unique items, or other effects with meteor style damage have been buffed by 100%, so that's going to be double their current effectiveness. That should narrow the gap in 11.1, so it will be interesting to see how the best in slot lists develop when the new season starts. Another change that you'll probably want to know about relating to specific gear pieces is a pretty large nerf to the healing effects from your Cyrces Circlet ring. Every singing citrine with a heal effect has been reduced by 33% for damage dealer and tank specialization specifically. Towards the end of Season 1, there were quite a few strategies that formed around using healing effects instead of an actual healer. There were even Queen and Sarek groups clearing the raid on Heroic without any healers in the group, which is kinda crazy, so you can see why the dev team would want to nerf these heals as we head into a new season. Not needing a healer at all seems a bit overpowered. Having the option to equip a utility or healing gem as a DPS should still be relevant, but it shouldn't replace the healer role entirely, so just keep that in mind as you work through the new content in Season 2. Now, patch 11.1 also introduces a bunch of small changes and updates for various user interface elements. One of the most important smaller changes you may not have seen or heard about in 11.1 has got to be the updated swirls and visual effects for abilities and spells. Instead of the ambiguous swirly effect, where you couldn't really tell if you were fully outside of an effect, most new abilities in the patch use harder ring effects, which give you a solid outline. These new effects are much easier to read, and it's a huge step forward in terms of telegraphing abilities and giving the player accurate information they can react to. Now, sadly, not all abilities use the new effects, and a lot of older abilities haven't been updated, but if the dev team continues to improve this with further UI updates, we could end up in a really good spot. Moving on, there are quite a few updates to the quest log or world map user interface window. We're going to get a new event tab on the right hand side, which shows you potentially rewarding weekly events at the top, and it tracks your progress. So you can see the Awakening the Machine and Spreading the Light events are ongoing. You can see the rewards if you hover over the event listing, and we haven't completed them yet this week. So you can use this event list to keep track of things like that, but then it also shows you various timed events, when they start, when they end, and when the next event of its kind will pop up. The surge pricing event could be quite important for 11.1 specifically. It gives you better rewards for the shipping and handling tasks, so having a UI window that keeps track of that kind of event and when they start up is going to be very useful. This event window will also only get more useful as more events are added in future patches and expansions, so I think it's going to be a great addition to the game. The map legend has been moved to be another tab below the event window, just in case you still aren't sure which icons mean what. Being its own panel here also makes it larger so you can see more icons at once. And then the last quest log or map changes for the filter menu. When you have things hidden or unchecked in your world map filter, there is now a number that tracks how many things you have hidden, and if you hover over the number, it will tell you which things are hidden as well. So you don't have to go hunting in your filter menu to see what's turned on or off. This could be especially useful if you're trying to find a specific icon or location that you may have accidentally turned off in your filters. There's another change relating to quests that might be important to you. The text that notates whether a quest has been completed on a Warband character previously has been moved from the bottom of the quest pickup pane to the top right of the panel. It's the red bonfire with the check mark and the completed text. That might be easier to see now versus it being at the bottom of the quest text, but either way, if you are someone who tends to complete quests on multiple characters, you'll need to keep an eye out for that new Warband completed message. And then there are also a lot of changes to how add-ons are displayed and grouped in the in-game menu. To start with, every add-on that has multiple children or extra add-ons tied to it will be properly grouped together, and you can clearly see the parent add-ons separated in the list. So it's much easier to see which add-ons are the important ones and which ones are additional functionality or plugin style add-ons. You can also right-click on add-ons to enable all dependencies all at once, so you don't have to go through them individually and find the ones that are needed for other add-ons to work properly. You can also enable or disable entire groups of add-ons all at once, or set them to their default state. Another interesting addition in this menu is the add-on resource usage at the top. You can see your add-on's current, average, and peak CPU usage, so if you've ever been in a situation where one of your add-ons is just totally destroying your frame rate or making the game stutter or cause any other issues, you can take a peek at those usage markers to see if anything is eating up more resources than it should. What's really handy is that you can actually hover over each add-on in your list and it will give you specific info about that add-on and how much average CPU it's using, as well as how much memory it's currently using, so you can narrow things down even further, and this just gives us more information about how each add-on is performing. Having this information in the add-on window keeps everything together and it makes a bit more sense. And then there's also a new search bar at the top right, so if you're one of the folks who has just an entire mountain of add-ons, I'm not calling anyone out specifically, but you know who you are, and it takes forever to just scroll through them to find what you're looking for, you can just search for them now to filter your massive list down to one or two that you're looking to change or play around with. And then the last little UI update we have is for achievement points and how they are displayed. In patch 11.1, the achievement points display in your guild window will now always display your total achievement points for your warband, not just for a specific character. So if you've been swapping around characters a lot, but you still need everyone to know you have giga achievement points, this small change will make sure your guildies always know how much of a gamer you are, even if you're on a brand new alt. But that's all of the important small changes coming in patch 11.1 we think you absolutely need to know about, so that's it for this video. Are there any changes on this list that surprised you? Are there any other changes coming in the patch that you think should have been included on this list? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all of our members here on YouTube. You can see the names floating by on screen. If you're interested in supporting the channel, you can find links in the description or click the join button just below the video. If you enjoyed the video or found it useful in any way, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you're always kept up to date. Thanks for watching, folks. Good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.